Warning! Content contained within this episode and the bulk of this podcast may be viewed as offensive to some. If you or anyone you know is offended by this episode or the rest of this media catalog, we recommend going to your nearest religious institution or windowless room where the ills of the world cannot harm your piteously fragile way of thinking. You have been warned. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of I Am Heathen, and so can you. Whether you're a fan of the old Hagar the Horrible comics, you have the hots for Chris Hemsworth, or Tom Hiddleston is the brooding goth kid of your dreams, the Vikings and Norse mythology have pervaded media like tacos through the stomach of a man with IBS. And while pagan and pagan adjacent media has done its fair share to bring people to question the validity of a legit spiritual path in their lives, and that's great. Whether you've been a Norse pagan for 20 years, you've been on the path for 2, it doesn't matter. For folks on the outside looking in, unless we take the time to explain what we do, what we believe, is it all that remotely shocking we're not blood-eagling people at will in the streets? We're viewed as just another bunch of geeks obsessed with a bygone age. Nerds dressing up in stupid costumes and shouting to gods that don't exist, allegedly. When in reality, we are people who do occasionally dress up, go into the woods, and worship our gods. So when you really stop to think about it, that perception is 100% correct. And when it does come down to it, when you really boil it down to the nitty gritty, we really are the cool kids at the Ren Fair. Anyway, Skullmin bro deers and sauce tires, and welcome back to I Am Heathen and So Can You. I am your host, Havamal owner, legend in his own mind, and definitely not a fucking Viking, Einar. I've been a pagan since 2015, and until 2021, I was a solitary, solo dolo ass pagan doing it all alone. I didn't have any community to speak of until I found the pagan community on TikTok. And seeing as I went this alone for 6 years, I had no idea there were so many stripes to the Norse pagan quilt. It kind of blew my mind with the number of people who cosplayed Ragnar Lothbrok, both great and atrocious attempts to be Ragnar. Women who poorly drew runes on their faces and lip synced to Peyton Parrish. I am so delighted not to have to hear, "My mother told me," until I contemplate ramming a pen in my ear to distract myself from the pain. Out of all the stripes of lunacy I found myself exposed to by being a pagan on TikTok, they they're the Asa Bros, who are so devout in their belief, so entrenched in how they pagan, in their incapable of recognizing nuance-ass approach to reading books and putting those books into practice. You know the ones. These brave, self-parodying souls are part of an elite sect of paganism. Brosatru, where in Asatru, it's faith in the Aesir or faith in the gods. Brosatru hits different. Odin? Who the fuck is Odin? Brosatrus are out here entering ritual out in the woods, leaving offerings to Odin? No! They're doing reps in the gyms for Thor, drinking rich, chocolatey Brovaltine, and learning how to be more like Travis Fimmel's Ragnar Lothbrok in a long-standing devotional act to the All Bro, the god who gave his eye for a shower and Axe body spray. Well, and I'm gonna be sick saying this. Hail Broden. I'm not gonna come out and say to pagan, I'm not gonna come out and say how to pagan to your heart's content. If you need to do X, Y, and Z, albeit in some instances in paganism, doing X, Y, and Z is pretty important. Couple of days ago, I was doom scrolling through my feed on Instagram and I heard the question, is heathenry going soft? And while I admit the creator who posed this flat out had a lighthearted, giggly conversation about how hardcore components of ritual are slowly dwindling into the dirt, it got me thinking. 2009 is the first year any content involving what would become the manosphere hit the internet. And if you've been living under a rock, frankly, congratulations. Ignorance is truly bliss. Whether it's Andrew Tate flapping his cigar holster about diet and exercise and how he treats his unwilling, no, victim, no, coerced companions, or uber creepy dating coaches and alpha males giving life advice to young, impressionable men and giving a platform to incels. That's men who have a superhuman inability to get laid. There's also been a constant, ongoing, dragging dialogue from creators who see fit to continuously tell impressionable young men, you're never good enough. Your diet is shit. Women don't want you. And then they turn around and provide you an out by suckering you into buying a course that will solve all your problems when working on yourself didn't help for shit. If you've stayed here long enough through this rant, this long winded, steaming pile of diatribe, you're probably saying at this point, Einar, you bald fuck. How does this have anything to do with heathenry going soft? Is the king being taken out of Viking? And what do the Vikings think? Is the only raiding we brave pagans are doing is plundering the fridge for its delicious goodies? Honestly, my take on this is going to piss off the hucksters. The schlocky motherfuckers who want to sell spiritual shit to make you more Viking. Being manly, being all big and burly, being the one brave Drenger with the biggest beard, and being able to grip the shaft of Thor Mjolnir with both hands is, well, marketable as fuck. Now, mind you, I very firmly believe making money in these spaces is fine, and increasing one's market share is all well and good, so long as it's done properly. Let's face it. Let's face it. You can make more money selling Viking-themed tapestries emblazoned with battle cries of Till Valhalla, talking of Odin and hailing the glories of battle, and the thought of ample-breasted women picking dead warriors for an eternity of fighting, drinking, and feasting. Again, hail Odin for this glory in battle, and may I dine forever with the Valkyries is so much more fucking marketable than hail Freyr for these turnips. This testosterone fueled festival of fuckery is appealing not only for those looking to embrace fantasy or embrace that leather kink they haven't been speaking about. It does everything in its power to make that person drawing a Vegvisir on their forehead and lip syncing to Peyton Parrish feel powerful. And you know what? You do you, boo boo. Because while there is that little chunk of badassery, it appeals to some of the goofiest people on the face of the earth. The internet is a phenomenal tool, a resource to meet old friends, find love, black out your browser history, and get educated. The Viking to pagan ratio in the room is fucking staggering. I was a part of a Facebook pagan group not too long ago, and while a lot of us go to Ren fairs and dress to the Viking nines, you find some of the most, what I can only refer to as people, who calling them sane may be a touch too charitable. I've heard the word plagan thrown around a lot, and while I used to a point, I still do, find that to be more often than not a way to insult people new on their paths. I honestly think the term is genuinely applicable to certain folks. I had to leave this Facebook group because I behaved like an ass. And one day I'm scrolling through the feed in the group, and a gentleman joined the group and said of himself, please hold for a dramatic reading. My name is Grimfirth Blackwolf, and you will address me as such. Robert is but the slave name my slavers, ugh, my parents, unwillingly thrust upon me when I entered into this world. Should you make the mistake of calling me Robert, I shall challenge you to a home gang, and I will win. Now, Bobby, based on that wild intro, my listeners can more than likely guess your aesthetic. If not, samurai top knot, a ton of eyeliner, because let's face it, every Viking just needs a smoky eye before they're raiding a church, and tons of knives on the wall. And I'm just over here thinking, oh, yes, the future of Norse paganism is right there in this single hilariously dorky photo that just screams, I want to give this man a wedgie so hard his father dies. Just make sure you save some of that Valkyrie ass for the rest of us there, Bobby. Well, I admit this was a thorough skewering of how the media has shaped a lot of how people embrace paganism and the Viking aesthetic. One of two things happens. People either pick up more books and dive deeper into the actual lore, practice, or find what is one's own personal view of the faith itself. Or you forego any of the spiritual aspects and you lean into the cosplay and the Viking look, and you may or may not find yourself royally memed and addressed as a pagan. And in my experience on this path, I know many pagans, proud in their faith and knowledgeable. But the amount of Vikings I know, the amount of Vikings that actually exist in this day and age, would blow your mind. Norse paganism is in and of itself a beautiful path that in its modern incarnation is a mix of history, religion, and culture, with neither being able to exist without the other. And while a lot of what we went on in the Viking Age may have been harsh, brutal, and downright cruel, it's so very important to understand the fact that we as pagans in this era live in 2025, not 925. And nobody is running around burning churches, raiding monasteries, blood eagling people in the streets. And at the same time, while it's totally all right to throw on period clothing and chill at a rent fair, and there's a pretty hardcore distinction that has to be made between the people who believe, the faithful pagans who put in the legwork to understand what it is they believe, and those testosterone driven manly men and manly women who proudly proclaim themselves as Vikings and shield maidens just for shits and giggles. So, the question I posed at the top of this thing is heathenry going soft? I would have to say flat out that it depends on your definition of soft, giggity. Do you believe in your heart of hearts that your levels of manliness are suppressed when practicing your faith? Do you believe that modern conveniences are softening your ability to live and interact with the gods? For me, for me, I don't think it's going soft. Personally, I think heathenry is so horrendously divided, not only between the Vikings and pagans, but the biggest battle we face as pagans is public perception. In an age where the Abrahamic religions, with Christianity reigning high, constant accusations and assertions are thrown at pagans. Your gods are fallen angels. You're all going to burn in hell. And a myriad of other items slung in our path when simply sitting down and having a conversation would open up so many eyes and broaden horizons of so very many people. Well, out of all the reconstructed spiritual paths in our world, ours, while having some age to it, also has a lot of work to do to come out to a point of perception shifting and making positive change. A lot more of us have to be willing to put the work in to leave this path in a better state than when we found it. With that said, min bro deers and sauce tires, that's all the time we have for this week. Tune in next week, and in point of fact, tune in all weeks, every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for more deep dives into the highest of Asgardian highs and the lowest of Niflheim's the lows has to offer. If you'd like to connect with us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at I am Heathen Pod. That's I am Heathen Pod. We're starting small. We'll be expanding on social media as the brand becomes stronger. If you liked what you heard, give us a follow and tell your fellow pagans about us. Just remember, everybody, I am your host, Havamal enjoyer, Odin fetishist, and a legend in his own mind, Einar. And well, I am heathen, and so can you. One last thing before we go. This is going to become a regular tradition on the show. If you have a drink, raise this fucker high, and I propose a toast. Hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the spirits, hail the ancestors, and most importantly, hail yourselves. This has been a Blackthorn production.